So my good buddy over on the Young Turks did a video, Cenk Uyghur, however you pronounce his name, 3 rules for the internet. This is my response to his 3 rules for the internet video. So in this video, I am going to basically give him the benefit of the doubt, just for this video though. I normally don't. I'm going to take the assumption that he actually believes the things that he's saying. He's actually trying to unite the left and the right. And I'm going to critique where he's wrong, assuming he's actually even serious at all. So he talks about, mockingly, people having an issue with him talking to the right. Like, oh my goodness, I'm talking to the right. Listen, man, ain't nothing wrong with you talking to the right? In fact, if I were an activist and if I were running for office, I would be all over Fox News. But I wouldn't be talking to people like Laura Ingraham. I wouldn't be talking to that lunatic guy on the 5, right? I would seek out the most reasonable people on Fox News and talk to those people. I'm not saying I totally wouldn't talk to some of those wackos, but if I talk to them, we'll have some words, right? Otherwise, I'm going to go to the more reasonable people. Right. By the way, there also is a way to effectively go on these right-wing shows and don't end up being a useful idiot or a tool that basically serves their purpose and not your own, supposedly. I'm not a fan of Mary Wilson, but she is a champion in doing this. She went on Fox News multiple times and she had the conversation. She listened. She was respectful. She wasn't just there to call names or whatever. But on the same token, she didn't go there just as a tool, right? She went there with a message, right? If you're a right-winger watching those shows that she went on, you heard some things, right? You heard her push back aggressively and not let the other person say a bunch of nonsense. Now, the apologists will say that Anna did that, and she did to a very light degree. I believe Cenk did as well, to a very light degree. I think she had it just about right. Just the right amount of level of pushback, aggressive pushback. Listen, I'm here to have the conversation. I'm not going to just sit here and let you say a bunch of nonsense. I'm going to call you out and I'm going to explain why it's nonsense, right? We can have a respectful conversation. We can have a dialogue, but I'm not going to sit here and have you say this nonsense to my face without absolutely crushing it. That is not what Anna did, and that is not what Cenk did. That being said, I don't have any issue with you going and talking to the so-called other side or talking to right-wingers. I think that's what you should do. However, here's one fundamental problem that you're not taking into account. MAGA at this point is a cult. MAGA at this point is a cult. Unless you have training as some kind of psychologist or something like that, you are not reaching MAGA. Right? We're talking about something that is psychological. It is, parasites have tapped into weaknesses in the human experience in terms of how we think. And people who have been infested with this MAGA poison, basically, they're so emotionally charged that they don't have access to the part of their brain that they do critical thinking. Now, this is science, right? So you could sit there and try to be reasonable and let's have a conversation. It's going to be the equivalent of you talking to someone in a cult, having a conversation, right? Imagine back in the day, Jim Jones. You go to a Jim Jones person trying to have a conversation. Hey, you, this is actually a cult that you're in. They ain't trying to hear that, right? They're not trying to hear that. And it's not about them being dumb. It's an exploitation of a weakness that we have as human beings. We are the species that see faces in clouds, right? For those of us who take the time to learn these weaknesses, if you have no character, no integrity, you can exploit them and manipulate people to the point where you have them do the most bizarre things and they have no idea how you're controlling them. They think that they're doing their own thing and making their own decisions and this is how I feel. They don't even realize how much they're just being controlled, right? And by the way, for the record, I've actually talked to MAGA myself. MAGA light, not red hats and flags type MAGA, not even watching a lot of the stuff online type MAGA. And so I have the experience. I'm not just saying this stuff, right? And I'm a person who, I'm not super emotional like a lot of Americans are. I'm able to calm myself down and just be logical and reasonable and listen to people and hear them out and have empathy. And that's what I did. I spoke to them very respectfully, not condescending. I listened, tried to understand their perspective. And every single time I was met with the same exact response, a brick wall. I compare it to talking to my father about religion. It's the exact same feeling I get when I have talks with my father about religion. He operates well below his IQ. He operates well below his intellectual capacity when speaking about religion because of, again, emotion. When I speak to MAGA light, their emotions are so charged up that they just contradict themselves. They're just totally irrational. I mean, it's the same thing like me talking to like a Jim Jones type person. And that's MAGA light. Can you imagine the idea of trying to talk to someone who's watching PBD and Glenn Beck, the guys that are deep in it? If someone like me, who can, unlike Cenk, who's all, unless of course he's trying to pander to them, who can, calm down and just like hear them out and understand their perspective and, truly think from their perspective and try to see where they're coming from. If I end up with a complete brick wall, someone like Cenk, who let's just say just a tad emotional. Yeah, you're not going to get anywhere with real MAGA. If you're really serious, find normal, real conservatives. A ton of them didn't even vote in the last election. So think about what would happen if you unite with those people who would probably outnumber MAGA easily. Curious that you wouldn't focus on that group, but instead you'd focus on a smaller group that's part of a cult. It's almost as if you're doing this from a business perspective, but apparently the business side isn't working out. So there's that. So there is no talking to MAGA, right? That is a cult. Now, going beyond that, unfortunately, and before we go that far, let's acknowledge there are people who you should and can talk to who are conservatives, right? You need to talk to normal conservatives, right? Not these constantly online people watching these propaganda networks, right? Because anyone watching this kind of content, PBD, whatever, they're going to be infested. I'm not saying that every single person watching PBD is unreachable, right? There's going to be someone there who's reachable. I mean, you have people who are watching it who are left-wing folks, right? But in terms of efficiency, right, you don't want to be approaching these types of shows, right? If I were a conservative, I wouldn't really have anything to watch in terms of if I chose to watch, conservative content. It's nothing. All these guys are all bowing to the cult of MAGA, right? And again, not an absolute statement. I'm not saying that that's 100%, but overall, Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, Tim Pool, PBD Podcast, MAGA, Charlie Kirk. You're not getting anywhere with these people, right? The people who run these shows, they don't care to talk to you and try to, understand your positions. Fuck that. They're trying to get paid, right? They're trying to get paid, right? These are bad faith actors. It's the equivalent of you trying to talk to Denzel Washington to try to get him to be more peaceful and less violent. But that's based off of Training Day. That's a movie, man. He's playing a part. He doesn't believe the things that he said in that. That's just him playing a part, right? PBD Podcast playing a part. Ben Shapiro playing a part. Steven Crowder playing a part. These are characters. You cannot reach them because they don't want to be reached because they are entertainment characters, right? So that's a waste of time. And then their audience has been infested with this cult ideology. So overwhelmingly, they're not going to be reachable, right? So if you're really serious about reaching across the aisle and uniting, which you should do, and I agree with that, you got to find the normal conservatives, right? Conservatives that aren't in the MAGA cult, right? You've got the money, you've got the resources, go out there and find the independents who are right-leaning. Find the normal conservatives that are not in this MAGA cult, right? There is where you can actually do some damage. There is where you can actually appeal to people. There's where you can actually have a conversation. We should have a conversation, right? And find some levels of unity. But going on these ridiculous propaganda shows with these guys who are masters at their craft of manipulation and, pretending, look at Glenn Beck, man. That was just masterclass, man. Sitting there, and we, the division is destroying this country and, really, it needs to stop. Meanwhile, he the one doing it, right? You can't have a conversation with bullshitters like that. They're unserious actors, which makes you look unserious, right? But the thing about it is, if you're focused on business interests, then you're doing the right thing, right? These are the guys who have big platforms. There's a big audience there. They're in the same space as you. So from a business perspective, what you're doing makes sense to some degree, right? It doesn't make sense to another degree, and your views reflect that. But I can see the logic there. But if you're truly trying to unite and have a conversation, you're going about it the wrong way, man. MAGA is a lost cause, not an absolute statement. There have been people from MAGA who have left, right? But overall, very inefficient for you to spend time dealing with those people, right? Look for the normal conservatives if, in fact, you're actually serious, but I don't think you are. But anyway, those are my thoughts. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.